Hello and welcome to another episode of the Halftime Podcast, brought to you by Halftime Cuppa. Usually a 15-minute show, but today I'm sure we'll extend out a little bit longer. And we've got all rights to, really, because it's the start of the season, start of the Premier League season. At the time of recording, we are pre-Liverpool destroying Norwich. So all these predictions are pre-season, so look forward to reflecting on these come the end of the season. Today I'm joined by Charlie Pumfrey. Hello, Charlie.
Hello. I was about to date the time of this recording, but hello, how are you doing? I seem to do that every time I come on one of these.
No, that's okay. It may be good to date today's one.
Well, I was going to say good morning,
just
mate,
so
to
we
be
can
honest.
factually. Oh, okay, fair enough.
So,
that's all right. Well, good morning to you anyway.
good morning, Danny. Thank you for having me. It's almost like we spoke yesterday.
Who would have thought it? Eh? And joining Charlie on today's panel, we have the Welsh wonder, Jake Thomas.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Jake?
I'm Jake. How are you?
Good.
Oh, you said how are you, not who are you. Good morning. I'm all right. I'm not too bad
Splendid.
at all.
Yeah. So, how did you spend deadline day yesterday, Jake?
Well, I was working and simultaneously crying because Fulham completely dragged their heels through just about all of it, and I ended up going to the cinema before any players were announced.
Oh, what did you see?
The film started at 7:20. The window closed about 5.
Yeah.
And then I came out and we'd signed
Harrison Reed,
local
Harrison
to me.
Reed and bloody
Local
Bobby
boy.
Reed. Yeah, we're just going for all the Reeds.
All the Reeds.
Trying to take over Reading as the most,
Red Place.
Well, good. On that note, tick that one off on your bingo sheets. Let's move swiftly on.
Yeah, so today's topic is all about, as you guess, Premier League predictions. So I've asked the guys, I've included myself, the predictions for who's going to win the Premier League, who's going to be part of the top 4, in no particular order, although obviously if you can order them, that'd be amazing. And then the bottom 3.
I'm excited for that. That's going to be fun.
So it will be exciting. No Fulham in there this year, so that's
not possible. Not possible, Jake.
an
Don't
easy
worry.
one.
It makes it a bit harder, isn't it? A bit harder to predict.
A little bit harder. Okay.
You've not got that guaranteed.
Should we start with who's going to win the league?
Let's start from the top and work our way
Start
down.
from the top? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Any preference as to who wants to kick off?
Basically, is anyone not going to say Man City? That's what we're probably aiming towards. I'll start on that front.
Go on.
I don't think anyone's going to eclipse Man City. I don't think Liverpool haven't made any movement in the summer, and as good as their squad is, their best players have spent all summer playing for their country. They're not going to win the league, if I'm being honest. They might run it close again, but I just can't. They haven't got the sort of players with the sort of experience that Man City have with the manager they have. I don't know if anyone wants to argue that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that, and I think as thing as it sounds, Man City are used to winning the league. They know what it entails. Liverpool took it close last year, but again, like you say, I can't see anyone really pipping Man City, and especially that they've only improved their squad as well. That's the thing. You think you swapped out Danilo for Cancelo. I think it was small business on their part this year compared to what they've done before, but I can't see it. I can't see anyone taking over top spot personally.
I think Liverpool will put up a good fight. And I don't know. I was sort of contemplating whether they could do it, but I just think, like you guys said, I think the experience and I just think it's Man City's to lose, really.
The one drawback I'd say with this, to play devil's advocate, because I've already made the point that I don't think this will be the case, but they have lost a couple of experienced heads in that team this summer.
Yeah,
losing your captain, Vincent Kompany, and they've not replaced him.
No,
Yeah.
that's true. That's
There is a
true.
world where two centre back, where if you get one, say John Stones gets injured as he likes to do.
Does enjoy a good injury, doesn't he?
Well, I don't know if he enjoys it, but it happens a lot. So I mean,
He-
take it or leave it. And then Otamendi's not exactly reliable. I wouldn't say he's in the top 5
No.
centre backs in the league. And then you've got Laporte, I think Laporte's a fantastic defender and probably only get better. But they could be in a world where if you get one injured and one suspended, you end up with Rodri or Fernandinho at centre back, which is
Not
probably
ideal.
enough to get past the smaller teams. But if it comes in a big game against Liverpool, against Tottenham, against even in a derby against Man United, it's a worry. I worry there's a slight lack of depth there, but I say that they'll win the league by 15 points, and we'll all be sat here going, "Oh, what are we right about?"
Yeah, I mean, I think if it got to a case where there was a bit of an injury crisis, I think probably by January they'd go out and they'd splurge it and they'd make sure that they've got that depth. And I mean, Liverpool went the whole season last year, Premier League season, obviously losing just the one game to Man City. I mean, they're going to lose the one tonight, so that's their one game out of the way.
About that.
But nevertheless, ignoring my blind optimism there, they've got to they've got to try and top last season, and I think it will be a challenge. It will be a challenge for them.
You look at the points they got last season; they both ended up on north of 90 points. That's something that had only ever been done by one team prior to Man City getting 100 points. Was it 100 points season before? I don't know. I sound really uneducated.
Yeah, I think it was.
Prior to that, it was only Chelsea that had got to 95 the year before. So Liverpool could really do the same as they did last year. And all it needs is, there was 1 point in it last season. All it needs is one game where Man City slip up. And like I say, without a leader like Vincent Kompany, I mean, in fairness, without Vincent Kompany, City wouldn't have won the league last year.
Yeah, without that goal, I guess, yeah. But
that was weird, wasn't it?
It was a weird goal. It was a great goal. But the thing is with Man City, and this is where I think the difference between the two is, Man City are a bit more ruthless in terms of when they play weaker teams, they will destroy weaker teams.
Yeah.
I think that was the one change in Liverpool last season, actually, was that they went from the season before, they would tear teams apart and beat them 6-7-0. And then last season, they were getting a lot of 1-0s, 2-0s. I know personally from the
bit
games
more
Take back
respect
to some draws as well, yeah.
the 2 games against Brighton last year, they were a little bit more workmanlike than the season beforehand, where they smashed us in both games.
Okay, well, we've all agreed on Man City there. Let's talk about the rest of the top 4. Jake, do you want to get us going with who you got?
I will, yeah. So obviously City, Liverpool, I reckon Spurs will be up there. And you know what? I think Arsenal could be up there as well this year. I think they're gonna build on last season. I mean, where did they finish last season?
6th in the end, wasn't it?
I think it was, wasn't it?
5th or 6th. They ended up outside. We should probably have done our research here.
It wasn't Champions League place, was it?
No, they were outside the top 4.
Definitely not.
No, so I can see them coming back into the fold. I wouldn't rule out them finishing higher than Spurs, just because I think the players they've sort of got, they've actually had for quite a while now, in terms of Lacazette and Aubameyang. They now know their own sort of partnership, and they've made some decent recruitments in Tierney as well, and Nicolas Pepe. So I think they could end up being a bit of a surprise. I think they'll be the one team, and I mean you compare them to their competition essentially. So you put in that bracket Man United,
Chelsea.
You know, if you had to pick on the basis of the strength of the transfer window, I'd definitely have to go with Arsenal.
I think they're the one team outside of... In fact, it's probably the one team in the top 4, top 6 that have really almost... It's been more of a revolution than an evolution this summer. Because they have brought in players that are going to change, that are going to replace players. I mean, Kieran Tierney specifically.
Yeah.
David Luiz. I worry about them defensively, but yeah, I think Arsenal are a good
I think that's almost like their only real concern now. I mean it was anyway, but nevertheless, you know, Luiz knows the league. You know, he knows what it entails. Tierney should be interesting. whether he's going to live up to expectations, I don't know. But it's definitely going to be interesting. He's definitely got something about him. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bought him.
No, exactly. I don't know, Danny. What's your top four then? Out of interest, if moving on from that, if there's any discord there between you and Jake's.
No, so actually, I think my top four is pretty much the same as Jake's actually. But I really hope, just as a bit of a curveball, I really hope Chelsea do quite well this year under Frank Lampard. I'd love to see sort of the Abrahams sort of hit the ground running and really push on.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's almost like you want them to do well because you want the younger players who might not have got the opportunity
to finally
push
get
on.
their opportunity.
Yeah. It's like you want them to grasp it almost and take it and run.
Yeah, and it would prove a point, wouldn't it, as well, to other big clubs that if you can put faith in players like Mason Mount and Fikayo Tomori, even though they haven't been playing at the top level before, and just hope that the thing is they're hoping a lot on talent and good leadership from Frank Lampard. And if you're a young player and an older player in fairness, there'll be players in that team that were there when Azpilicueta was there when Lampard was there. There are players in that squad that were playing with him, so they'll know what to expect from him as a person as well. Yeah. And this is the thing about Frank Lampard. I worry that he's obviously... It's a good thing and a bad thing that he's come when he has, because the good part will be that Chelsea can't turn around to him in 6 months' time and go, well, why have we gone backwards? Because
it's not you've lost fault.
You've lost arguably the best player in the league in Eden Hazard. And as good as Christian Pulisic might be, he's not Eden Hazard yet, or ever will be.
I think there's going to be such a lower expectation of them. If they don't do well, no one's going to turn around and say, well, what happened there?
Well, the problem is you can't turn around, sack him in January, and go, okay, Jose Mourinho, you go and do better, but with no transfer, no movement.
They're not going to be able to bring in a manager that wants that other than a Frank Lampard coach. Essentially, what they've gone out and what it looks like is they've gone out and got a coach rather than a manager.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's going back to what you said, Charlie, about players being there while Lampard was a player. I think that could perhaps naturally form some sort of hierarchy whereby Lampard ends up using the more experienced players to guide the younger ones, because there's going to be that gap, in age, and there's going to be that level of trust as well, where they've played in the same team together. They know what to expect of each other.
This is it as well. Yeah. Wait, sorry, just to jump on your point as well. Another a good part of that as well is Jody Morris going back to Chelsea, who brought real success to their youth team, and ironically a youth team that will now have feature players that are playing in the first team. That he was there when he coached. I'm sure Mason Mount at a young age, but looking at the sorts of Loftus-Cheek, Tammy Abraham, even Hudson-Odoi, they all worked under him as a reserve youth team coach. So having him there as well, that expectation will be clear from day one. I don't know. I think if everything pulls in that direction, Chelsea could surprise a few people. I just don't think they've got the experience depth to really push themselves, not necessarily into a title fight, but into that top four.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, quick one before we move on anyway. Manchester United, I'm guessing so far across the board, we've kind of excluded them from a top four.
Do you know what?
So.
I'm gonna go out on a limb as the one. I actually think Man United will surprise people this season. I think they've kept a lot of the good points of last season, and they've added some talent to it as well. And that it's more of a. I think we spoke about this in the Transfer Deadline Day podcast, or live stream, which you can find on the channel. Where actually. Yeah, 10 out of 10. Thought I'd slide it in there. No one noticed until you mentioned it. I think the thing is with Man United, this is really where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be made or broken, will be this season, and it will show the expectations of ownership. If it gets to the end of the season and they finish 5th or even 6th, because I think the top 6 will be really close this season. I think there'll only be a handful of points in it. I think there'll only be 4-5 points at most in between 4th and 6th. And I wonder whether they'll turn around and go, well, that's not enough progress. We haven't made enough progress. Or maybe they'll get to January and not be in the top 4 and they'll twist rather than sticking with the team that they've got.
Mm.
And I think they have the most potential amongst them to really push on. But I worry that Solskjaer isn't the experienced hand or he's not innovative enough in his thoughts that it will really make too much of a difference. But I think if anyone's going to push that top four, I think it'll be Arsenal ultimately. But then I think it'll be Man United in 5th and then Chelsea in 6th.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I'm sort of looking at the first team squad that United have got now. It looks to me a bit disjointed. It looks like it's just a bunch of players sort of slapped together.
Wow.
Kind of looks like a team, a team that you're not controlling on Football Manager. There's there's some strange signings.
It's just a bit bizarre, really.
I think that's the one thing they've had to deal with, though, is that since Ferguson left, you look at the managers that have come in since Ferguson left.
They've not got the pulling power that they used to.
Well, I think they probably do, but they're not the level they were. But there's too many different philosophies and players that would fit that philosophy in the club. So you've got someone like, if you look through it now, this summer they've let Lukaku leave. Antonio Valencia, that was a holdover of the Ferguson era, and was still being played at right back. It seems like they've been trying to weed that out. And I think if Matic, I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Nemanja Matic made way before the window closes in Europe.
Yeah. Someone like
Zenit or just to leave the club because he's a holdover from Mourinho. He was a Mourinho man. And I worry that he hasn't got pace about him to fit this Solskjaer team. But it's interesting. I think that's what they tried to add is pace and vibrancy and raw talent to the squad this summer.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Goran would not be impressed if you're suggesting
he would be
Matic.
very, very annoyed. He would say something along the lines of...
That's such a niche reference.
This is unacceptable. He's the best player in the Premier League of Serbian descent.
Nah, well, if you listen
I know
to
for a fact he'd say something like that.
If you listen to the live stream, you'd have known that we said Marko Grujic was the best Serbian player in the Premier League.
I did listen to that, and I think Goran wasn't too impressed.
Well, we did seem to annoy Goran in fairness, but yeah. Let's move on.
Anyway,
I think that's a good jumping off point from the top four.
Yeah, let's talk about the bottom 3 now.
Deal with the dirt.
Deal with the dirt.
That's good. That's good coming from the Fulham fan. He knows what it's like.
I am used to the dirt. I live on the dirt.
Well acquainted.
Charlie, do you want to kick us off on this one?
Go on then. I'll kick us off. This bottom 3, I think, much like the top 4, is going to be really hotly contested, but not necessarily because of too much quality. I think it will be a question of not enough quality at the bottom. A bit like, to be honest, a bit like last season.
Not surprised.
Race for the spoon.
It will be, a race to the bottom almost. But the thing is, you look at the teams at the bottom. I'm going to put my 3 out there. I think Sheffield United.
Mm-hmm.
I think Crystal Palace, and this is going to be real. I'm going to get shouts of bias coming from it all over the place.
Bias.
Yeah, bias. Just bias. Yeah, cool. Put that one in post. Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, and I think Norwich. If I'm being honest, Danny's going to hate me. I'm done. I'm done with the site. This is officially my last podcast.
That's your resignation right there.
But no, I think to be honest, those 3 teams haven't done enough to add quality to their squads this summer. I could be surprised. I think Sheffield United are the ones that could probably surprise the most out of the 3.
I get like a Huddersfield-y type vibe from them
exactly.
a bit.
I get exactly the same. And to be honest, I get a feeling of like Huddersfield, like Stoke almost from a few years before. Of a team that won't do an awful lot right, but won't do an awful lot wrong.
The achievement of last season will probably still be ringing.
Overshadowed.
And I think it may possibly be enough to sort of keep the spur of the players on.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because I was going to say I've got Sheffield United in my bottom 3. I think if they are to stay up, it will be because of their home form. They're going to be solid.
Yeah.
They're going to grind out clean sheets. It's going to be 1-0s. That's how I see it going.
Yeah,
with Sheffield United, but I've still got them in my bottom 3. What about you, Jake? Let's hear your bottom.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and I think I'll probably go with. I'm sorry, Danny. I'm going to say Norwich. I'm sorry.
Resignations all round.
I'm sorry.
Next week's podcast, Danny Cook interviewing Danny Cook.
Myself.
I'm going to say Crystal Palace and Burnley.
Okay, why? Let's start off. I know. We've already heard Charlie's thoughts, I guess, for Norwich. Anything different on that front?
No, not really. I just don't have the faith in them. I wish I did, but I just can't see it happening. I'm sorry, Danny.
Okay.
I do worry.
Okay.
I worry with Norwich that their style of football doesn't equate well to a relegation battle. You look at their stats last season; they conceded a lot of goals for a team that got promoted.
Hell of a lot of goals.
You can't go into the Premier League. It doesn't happen a lot unless you're Wolves and you can go out and bring in real talent. It's almost impossible to come into the Premier League, concede a lot of goals, and still stay up.
A lot of the goals came from set pieces, as in came from corners, which is a real
that's
killer.
Danger town.
It's a real
Premier League,
kryptonite, yeah. But I would say the real sort of saving grace for us, as an attacking sense, is we score a hell of a lot of goals from open play.
I think the worry with that is then can that be translated over to such a giant step up?
Exactly.
You know, if you're the leaders in that league, you've essentially set your standard as the highest. But that doesn't really equate to when you're playing your Liverpools, your Man Cities.
But not even that.
Even like those really picky teams like Newcastle, or Southampton, where they just know the league, they know the intensity, they know the level. Yeah, I'm sorry, Danny.
See, I think we will. I think this is where I think we will struggle. I think we will struggle against teams like Burnley, like Newcastle. But in a strange way, I do think, other than tomorrow or tonight, even with Liverpool, I think we will actually do all right against the bigger teams. Because I think just the way we set up and the way we want to play. I mean, if you think back, I don't know if you saw it, the FA Cup game we had against Chelsea a couple of years ago, and the League Cup game against Arsenal, two games. I know they're cup competitions.
Yeah,
it's slightly different, but certainly the style sort of led into how we wanted to play. And we didn't dominate possession or anything like that. We were probably on the back foot, but we still controlled what we needed to control. And yeah, I think we will surprise a few this year anyway. But yeah,
if it's any consolation, I would rather you stay up. I want you to do well.
The same.
If it's any consolation,
yeah. I would rather teams that are willing to be expansive. This is the problem that Brighton faced last season, is that we weren't expansive enough.
Yeah.
And I would rather have teams that want to play football the right way in the Premier League than have teams that want to just sit back and play. Like when you saw it with Stoke. Stoke got to the point where they couldn't play that defensive style of football because it only works for so long, and it worked for us as well. Our form fell off a cliff because the players effectively down tools and went, well, why are we bothering? What's the point in this? When we've got players that can play so much more expansive football, and I would rather a team like Norwich be in the league than a really defensive team.
Yeah, the ones that actually want to play football rather than sit back, survive. And I know sometimes you do what you've got to do, obviously. But I'd still rather see, a team like Norwich who actually want to go and play football rather than this might be completely ignorant, but Sheffield United strike me as the types that are more likely to sort of have that grit about them, ride their luck on being a complete defensive unit and then maybe catching them with a long ball. Sort of similar to how Cardiff were when they went up.
I mean, yeah, look at their transfer.
2 years ago.
Say that will be the case heavily.
Yeah,
knocking it to Billy Sharp, knocking it to Ollie McBurney.
Exactly, yeah. So, but I mean, I'd rather Norwich stay up. I just think their downfall will be the style that they want to play.
I'd be interested to see, and I think certainly all the noises coming out of the club is they're going to stick to it. They're not going to waver, because that was the issue when we went down last time. Was we did really well until we played Newcastle, probably about end of September, October time, and then got absolutely smashed. I think it was 4-0. or something like that, 4-1, and then the style that Alex Neil adopted had to be different. He chose it to be different, and then from there it was just a car crash.
Yeah, you're
I mean,
trying
the
to teach
thing
an old
is,
dog new tricks effectively with the squad that have been playing for so
yeah,
long.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
speaking from experience as well, Fulham last year went into the Prem with our sort of unique style and free-flowing football, and it just didn't work. You can't do it. I remember we had Crystal Palace the opening day, and I think it was sort of clear from that moment that it wasn't going to work. But we didn't have that sort of toughness or ruthlessness about us to take it to teams. Like we lost to Huddersfield. I just fear that Norwich could be set up for a similar route.
Okay, we
I hope
will
not.
have to wait
I
and
really
see,
hope
I
not.
guess.
I hope not.
But yeah, Danny, your
Let's-
bottom three. Let's hear your bottom three, and then we'll.
Okay. I was going to say my bottom three: Sheffield United. Slightly controversial in terms of I think Newcastle could be around there, and I think Crystal Palace as well.
Yes. I mean, yes, very good. Yes. I mean, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
Newcastle is an interesting one. I was actually going to pick them, but I think what saved them from my picks was the guise of a somewhat good transfer window.
Yeah.
If they've still got the same problems they had last year, in the sense
Yeah.
of getting off to a really slow start, and this year they've not got Rafa. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him down there.
It wouldn't surprise me either, because they've lost not only their manager, but they've lost their biggest attacking, their most potent players.
Yeah.
That Rondon's been allowed to follow Rafa out to China, and that Ayoze Perez was
It's gone Leicester, yeah.
pretty simply just allowed to leave after a standout season. And then they've brought in two players that, in fact, are probably quite good, in Alan Saint-Maximin and Joelinton. But neither are proven.
It's a gamble, isn't it? Yeah, it's a complete gamble. If neither of those work, what have you got?
Andy Carroll.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that I guess is kind of a little bit of the saving grace in this is, if they
Andy
need
Carroll?
to play ugly, if they need to play ugly, loft the ball into him.
Have they still got Dwight Gale?
They do. He didn't move anywhere in the end. After I spent all afternoon saying he was going to Stoke.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, he's been out of favour there, hasn't he, for a little while.
Yeah.
But someone like Steve Bruce will love a striker like Dwight Gale as
True.
backup.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially the fact that he is basically, other than Andy Carroll, he's their only other striker, really, from memory.
Just on that then, so obviously I've spoken about Newcastle there. Let's talk about Jake. Jake, I know you put Burnley in yours.
I did, yeah.
Why Burnley?
This squad just, to be honest, I could put Burnley every year and they'd stay up, and that's fine. I just think their squad never inspires much confidence.
Do you not think they've got a squad that's so geared towards not getting relegated that it's like Stoke in the last few years after they got promoted?
That's what it feels like, yeah.
But the thing is, they're not trying to change their style like Stoke did. Stoke,
to be completely honest, they kind of look like Stoke on paper anyway.
Oh yeah.
You've got Phil Bardsley, Eric Peters, Joe Hart, Jay Rodriguez.
Up to the end of last
Jeff
season,
Hendrick.
Peter Crouch.
You could list me those names and I would have told you that was Stoke.
Yeah, there's not an awful lot of difference there. You are right.
So I really don't know. But I mean, they're also used to the fight. They're used to scrapping.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So that's on their side as well. But I don't know whether this year they might just find that the quality isn't quite there. I'm not sure.
Okay. The interesting thing is as well, all three of us have not included Villa.
Yeah, I was about to ask that exact question. It's interesting that all of us have said there's enough faith in that squad that they'll stay up.
What do you guys think? Like, as in, what has been the factor? Do you think it's the money? Do you think it's the?
I don't think it's the money.
Players they brought in.
I think it's the combination. I think they've brought a nice blend of players in. Not to hark back to Fulham from last year because it's such a lazy comparison because of the amount of money. But the transfers Fulham made last year
were awful.
We can go there. That's go to that line if you want.
Don't get me started on that.
But they brought a lot of unproven talent. effectively.
Yeah.
They brought in Luciano Vietto, who I think has been a wonder kid, even though he's 25. Andre
he's still a
Schürrle.
wonder kid, isn't he?
They brought lots of players in that didn't have a lot of pedigree at that end of the table.
And the problem is, we brought them in on the last day of the bloody window.
Exactly.
As well.
No preseason. To meld with the squad.
One of my friends is a Villa supporter, and the difference is sort of in the run up since they were promoted, they've had this clear plan of what it is that they were going to do.
Yeah.
We went on bloody holiday after we got promoted. Like, we did nothing.
In fairness,
I left it
Brighton's
last
players
minute.
did that. Brighton players went to Vegas. You can see it at the beginning of the
I
season.
think they did as well, yeah, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, but I think Villa have really geared up well for this return. They've got no plans to go back down, and as thing as it sounds, I like where they've got their players from as well.
Yeah.
So they've signed Wesley, but they've not just signed Wesley; they've signed Marvelous
Oh,
and
Marvelous
Bjorn
Nakambe.
Engels, who've all played for Brugge.
Yeah.
It's those connections there. It's the familiarity. And I always think, the mental aspect is at least 50% of what you do. And I think knowing you've got those sort of, if I dare say the word friends around you when you play it feels better, doesn't it? If you've had success in a team with, players before and you move teams, but you've still got them around you to some extent, you automatically feel sort of more confident. You feel, right, I'm not on my own. I've got Marvelous, who was
Marvelous.
In my team as well.
I think the things you can also say is that they've brought in a few experienced heads as well. As I go full Sean Dyche again. They've brought in players like Tom Heaton. Oh, this is really bad. I'll let that one out.
Travel.
I've been gargling worms again. But you look at Tom Heaton, for example. Experienced goalkeeper, solid, in and around the England squad. Primarily his first choice because there's no one else around. But then you look at, they've also brought players that were there already or have been in and around that, sort of like Tyrone Mings was there, Anwar El Ghazi was there.
Again, the difference between when we went up and we completely blanked the players who got us there, like Thomas Callas, Piazon, Ollie Norwood.
Norwood. Oh.
Yeah, he was available.
He'll get a chance
for like
this year.
5 mil.
He's back with Sheffield United this year.
Yeah, I'm glad he is because he deserved it. He was brilliant for us.
He was.
But I think that they've bought smart. In all honesty, I think I do think they've bought smart.
There's a plan.
Again, I want them to stay up because they've actually showed initiative and they've shown, we are taking this league seriously. We want to improve.
They've got a good manager as well, in Dean Smith.
Yeah, definitely.
He knows what he's doing.
And I think, John McGinn is a fantastic player.
Yeah, him and
I
Conor
really
Hourihane.
quite like him.
He's linked with United.
Yeah. Again, Jack Grealish, Conor Hourihane.
John McGinn being linked to Man United purely because his granddad is mates with Alex Ferguson. that was the rumour of the window.
Story of it, yeah.
Not what he knows who.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I know Sir Alex. Get me a move. Get me a move, granddad.
Daddy, I want to play for United. but I mean, on a serious note, I actually don't see him struggling at all. I think they could finish quite comfortably, sort of 12th.
I think they'll be mid-table.
Which is
I think
my one worry for them is where the goal's going to come from, because even though
our big Wes will do it.
I've seen lots of stats about Wesley that say he's going to struggle, and especially being a South American player are being asked to move to the Premier League. They don't always hit the ground running.
Nah, he is massive. He's about 6'4" and weighs over 200 pounds. He's fine. Honestly, I've got no doubt that Wesley will hold his own.
I take it back. Then
I've put all my eggs in Wesley's basket. But
oh my god!
I'm really backing Wes.
Is he in your fantasy league too?
He is, yeah.
Okay, there we go. You triple captain him.
I do the dream team. I've not got the brains for.
We should do the fantasy one.
Jake, you should do the FPL one so you can join the Halftime Cuppa League.
Yeah. Exactly.
The what, Charlie?
The Halftime Cuppa Fantasy League, Jake. Link to the code and link will be in the description.
Oh, well,
I
you
will
see,
certainly
I'm
be
just quickly
joining the
trying to find
halftime
that.
cup of fantasy.
I have been plugging everything. I'm all over it, boys. Don't worry. That's all I'm here for.
I'm glad someone is anyway. Here we go. Where's the code? Where's the code? Oh, almost.
It will flash
Danny,
on screen. We'll get it to flash on screen. It's fine.
All
Don't
right,
worry.
I've almost got it.
It's going to be flashing on screen, Danny. Danny's going to. Even though this is technically an audio podcast, we'll get it to flash on screen. Don't worry.
It's all right. I've got it. I've just found it as well. So it'll flash on screen. It's FVN3JH. There you go.
Can we get that one more time, Danny? No, don't worry. It will be on screen. It will be in the description. Don't worry about it.
There you go, Jake. So make sure you take note there.
I certainly will, and I will be joining the halftime cup on fantasy league team.
I expect to see your fantasy team by the end of the day, Jake. You've got till 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
it's just going to be Wesley in every position.
Wesley.
Oh dear. Right, on that note, I think that brings us to a nice end of today's podcast. Thank you very much, gents. I hope you enjoyed.
I certainly have, and I've just found out a fact about Wesley.
Go on then.
He was born with one leg almost 3 centimeters shorter than the other.
That's
wow. I mean, I don't know where to begin.
Jake's trivia corner there. It's really pulled one out at the last minute. Amazing.
I'm definitely backing him for success.
Immediately backing. God, he must be able to strike a ball with that leg. Jeez, yeah.
Football index.
Depends which
Football
one
index.
it is.
We're not sponsored.
Not yet. Other sports trading index things are available.
I think with that glowing recommendation, we should probably end.
Yeah. How can we follow you guys on Twitter? Let's start with Charlie then. How can we follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me at Twitter at Charlie Pumfrey, where I basically just whinge about Brighton all the time.
Very nice. Jake?
You can follow me at JT1196, and I've been retweeting cat memes for quite a while now.
I've noticed a lot of the Power Rangers. I'm enjoying Power Rangers. That's a running
Basically, it only ever comes in when you and Eddie are in discussion.
It's
only you and Eddie.
Whenever me and Eddie are in discussion
I've
on
been
Twitter,
waiting for someone to notice.
Oh no, I was well aware. The
only
second time you did it, I was like, all right, this is a thing now. All right, anyway.
Well, there you go. You can go and have a look at the Power Rangers.
And Danny, how can we find you on Twitter? Or on any other social media
You
platform?
can find me on Twitter at DannyCook1996, talking all things Norwich, and won't be crying too much when Liverpool smashes them. It will be interesting. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. As ever, great fun. And I look forward to seeing you both on a future podcast.
Beautiful. Thanks for having us.
Danny.
That's all right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. And until next time, take care and goodbye.